Okay, at 7 o'clock, we'll start our public hearing. Bob, will you read the hearing, notice of hearing?
Real estate notice and application is made by Rick Van Lin of Van Lin Orchards on 4002 Jumper Road for an interim use permit for a relative home occupation in Oakland Township. Said applicant stating to make an application with the fee owner satisfied lands. A hearing on this application will be held at the Courthouse Commission in the City of Allen, Minnesota at 7 o'clock Thursday, February 26th. All persons having an interest in the matter will be given the opportunity to be heard relative to granting or denying the said application. Houston County Planning Commission by Bob Stanford, advertised February 11th, 2015. As I said, Van Lins are looking to apply for an application for interim use permit for a level 2 home occupation. And a level 2 home occupation means that they plan to run the business out of an accessory building on the site. And some other stipulations that go along with that are that they have less than 6 employees, and a portion of the building that would entail the home occupation would cover less than 5,000 square feet. And it looks like their application meets those criteria. What we're planning to do is to set up a retail office in the existing apple packing shed. They're currently an apple orchard operation, farming operation in Oakland Township. They do on-site packaging of apples, plating and whatnot. And the new office retail shop would be in the existing, like I said, packing shed. In addition to that, we're going to plan to do some hay rides and orchard tours in the following year. We want to have a tasting room for hard apple cider and sell that along with Ben's Jellies and Global Syrup. Winter months, we plan to do open a farm up, maybe some cross-country skiing and serve some hot apple juice and apple pie. And also hold local fundraising events for charitable organizations as well as orchard tours for field trips for local schools, etc. So the fact that they're looking at the retail sales under that is above and beyond, what the farming operation entails, and that's the application for the home occupation.
Okay, would you state your name?
Richard Van Lin.
You're Richard Van Lin, okay. Do you have anything more to say? Can you explain more about it?
Well, we've been selling apples off and on for 20 years, and then last year we put an ad in the paper, and we'd like to go a little further with having a presence in the community. As far as the cider thing, that's I think the Minnesota Department of Ag is going to regulate that. I talked to my insurance agent. We're covered that way. I talked to local schools, and they'd like the opportunity to visit the orchard.
How far out of town is this?
About 3.5 miles.
3.5, okay. And so, do you have people coming to your location now and buy purchase?
A few, yeah. It takes a little effort. They don't. There's a lot going on, so they don't.
And I know over by Gaze Mills and that, there are quite a few places that sell cider. What
Yeah.
you're talking about doing, there's a lot of that
Yep.
goes on over there.
Richmond Center and Trumbull County, and
My wife and I go over there probably every other year or so.
yeah. I figured it'd be nice to have something in our county.
I think it's probably good for your orchard business too, and
As long as it's not a distraction too much. I mean, we're trying to run it so it's,
that I guess you can make whatever you decide to, how big a distraction you want it to make.
right.
Up to
I don't want a circus, but I'd like to have schools come up and
Do you anticipate having signs put up? Or, I mean, you'd probably have to have a permit for that as well.
right at the Y of the cemetery in La Crescent, you know, the Catholic cemetery. Channel 19 has one there, and I talked to Chamber about that, and I guess it's private property, but it gets to be with the traffic, the highway department.
Mhm.
But no, I don't think I'll put up a billboard. I have a sign on my front driveway right now. It's about 3 by 4, 3 by 5, or something like that. I might want to put a small sign at the turn onto Jumper Road off 25.
How big can you go with that before getting a permit?
Any sign needs a permit.
Okay.
Were you talking over by TV towers?
I haven't, yeah, I was going to talk to Al Hyde about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Judy, you have a comment? You stay right there, Richard.
On behalf of the EDA of the county, this is the kind of stuff we want to see coming in. It'll bring more tourism and things like that, and which we're working hard to get here.
So you're thinking about creating cross-country ski trails too? You think you do that?
When I started putting down items that I might want to do, I was told to put down anything and everything that you might do. That way, I don't come back and pay another $400 or something. Yeah, I think that'd be fun in the middle of winter. It wouldn't be too hard to do. I talked to my neighbor about it, and he cross-country skis. But there too, you got to put you got to probably talk to some of the ski sports places, and you got to get people together to do that. I think there's other places to cross-country ski too. But,
I think it's something that probably, if you have some trails or something like that, you're pretty close to the Crescent, and that stuff would probably be a lot more people than you think would probably be interested in doing something like that.
I don't know.
Well, I'm not a cross-country skier either, but I do see them, doing it different places, even around the way you're
You put it on Facebook, and you can. I've got a website. Well, I've got a domain name now, but I don't have a website. So I don't know how many people you could attract.
Have you considered snowshoeing? I think the La Crescent Recreation Group or something even rents or borrows them out.
Oh yeah.
So how many people do you think might be coming?
Great question.
Great question.
It depends how much money you want to spend on advertising.
Yeah.
And then I don't want to undercut the businesses that I sell to now. So I'm not going to low dollar. I'm not looking for that. It'll be like the apples will have to be priced at a price that'll be about the same as. I offer more to the scenic drive, place to walk around, a pick your own. I'm going to do pick your own. I don't know how many people. Not too many, and hopefully enough.
You got parking for,
I've got lots of parking.
you got facilities and so forth for people being there? I mean, restroom facilities and whatever?
It would be rentals. I don't have a permanent bathroom. We have one on site for Apple Fest comes up with Apple Tour, a bus now. They've been doing that for like 5 years, I think. And there's always an outhouse we pack apples too for stores, and so we've got to have. We had, let's see, the USDA came up and we had a gap audit last year, so I guess we passed that. We finally got that, the good agricultural practices. And then we'll get the we'll get a Walmart audit here this summer. And we're also Truer certified, which means we have an outside verifier for spraying, things like that.
What kind of, were you anticipating hard cider? Is that what I heard?
Last year, we sold juice to Pearl Street Brewery. They made a cider beer, and that was offered at Applefest and Oktoberfest.
Okay.
I'd like to make a straight non-beer cider.
Okay.
That's probably down the road, but we start experimenting now. As far as like a tasting room and things like that, I think that's MDA too. That's the state's going to come in on that. So, at least last I heard, it was hard cider was regulated by. I want to say ATF, but it's not ATF.
Alcohol and tobacco.
Yeah, but then they kind of switched it back to MDA. So I have to talk to other guys that are doing it. There's a guy doing hard cider in Winona County, Harry Hoke, and also Lytle's are doing hard cider.
What's the alcohol content? Is there alcohol content?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what is it? How strong is it?
I think it's 5.5. I think it depends on the bricks and the yeast, and I think there's a range you can have it at. I don't know. I think you can go whatever you label it as. I think you can go 3.5 or up to 9. I think I don't know.
So you need to.
I don't know if it goes to a wine tax, but it's a tax. Records and taxes what.
So we'd have to have Tony.
As far as if there's questions about the hard cider, you don't have to judge on that or okay on that. Because I think there's a lot of questions I have too. So I don't know. I could put that pending.
Well, it'll be something, if you're gonna be in this thing, you're gonna have to have the right permits to be open, or they'll.
What's that?
I say if you don't have the right permits or whatever, and that, when you get looking into this, somebody will come and look, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, if
Yeah. So
The second I see
I have no
it-
problem with.
This, the second I decide to bottle or it's the state's going to come down. They got you. They can't do anything. I can't move.
So do you have any calls or anything?
Yeah, we did get a couple of calls on it. One was from a nearby neighbor that was concerned about loudspeakers being played or whatever. He was concerned that, he wanted to voice his opinion that he'd just as soon not have any loudspeakers outside. So, I don't know that you're proposing such a thing, but that was his.
Right. No concerts or
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah. Or even, any events that said you don't want to hear it through a loudspeaker.
Yeah. He's got the noise kind of bounces down to his house.
You don't have a problem with that?
No.
Okay, any other questions? Anyone here have any comments? Okay, Bob, you want to read the finance criteria?
Proposed use component of the land use plan. 2, does the applicant demonstrate a need for the proposed use? 3, the proposed use to improve the water quality of the county. 4, the proposed use adversely increase the quantity of water runoff. 5, are sub-conditions adequate to accommodate the proposed use? 6, have potential pollution hazards been addressed and have standards been met? 7, are adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities being provided? 8, are adequate measures being taken to provide sufficient off-street parking and loading space to serve the proposed use? 9, are facilities being provided to eliminate any traffic congestion? or traffic hazard which may result from the proposed use. 10, will the interim use be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for purposes already permitted? 11, does the establishment of the interim use impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for predominant uses in the area? 12, are adequate measures being taken to prevent and control offensive overfumes, dust, noise, and vibration, so that none of these will constitute a nuisance, and control lighted signs and other lights in such manner that no disturbance to neighboring properties will result? 13 is not applicable. 14, is the intensity of the proposed commercial and industrial development greater than the intensity of the surrounding uses or greater than the intensity characteristic of the applicable zoning district? 15, are site-specific conditions and such other conditions established as required for the protection of the public's health, safety, morals, and general welfare?
Anybody, any board members have any questions about the findings? Is this on a township road that you're on?
County.
It's on Jumper Road.
Is it a county?
That would
Township.
be-
Township.
The dividing line is on the property, Hope Township, LaCrescent Township.
So traffic-wise, the number 9 here, traffic-wise, you don't see enough people coming out there to cause a problem on a township road?
I kind of refer back to, when we had the detour, when they redid bridge going to Hope up from LaCrescent. And I called Rochester, I'm trying to think of the guy's name, but he estimated 8,000 cars got detoured, and they were supposed to go up the Hopple Hill but they didn't. And he estimated 2,000 to 4,000 cars went through Jumper. But they're all going one way.
Yeah.
I think it was 2 working back. But I know it might have been 1,000 to 2,000. And I don't remember any accidents, but I think there might have been one.
Well, most of the traffic comes up 25, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Okay, no other questions?
What section of our ordinance does this interim use permit fall under? It's not a campground, it's, what's it fall under, what section?
Section 14, ag protection.
Ag protection, okay, thanks. It's not on
It's
there.
one of the list of the interim uses.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no more questions or discussion, I'd entertain a motion one way or another.
I would make a motion to grant the interim use permit.
I'd second that.
Do you want any conditions on that? Like amplified sound, you're okay with that? You don't plan on having amplified
I
sound?
can't see a reason for it. It just, we might have some muzak in the building.
But no outside amplified speakers, you're okay if we put that in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does the board want to think about a time on this to review this, you know, in a number of years to make sure everything is good?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Any suggestions from the board? That's your position. I know.
Well, if it's an interim use, how long is it good for?
Yeah, how long do you want it good for?
Next generation.
The next generation.
Well, the ordinance says if you sell the place, then the permit goes away, so.
Okay.
So permit to be given to you as an individual?
Well, that's the only one.
Or are you incorporated?
No, it's a partnership. I'm majority owner, and my brother's a partner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes like.
Okay, well, we have a motion, go ahead. Is there more
Sometimes like
discussion?
on,
Rich seconded.
Yeah, more discussion on the motion.
Maybe I want, maybe I wanted to modify that with, to add without, there cannot be outside loudspeakers as part of this.
Okay, a condition.
Yes.
Condition, as a
Yep.
condition, yeah.
Because of the charity events,
yeah.
Well, you never can tell what it's gonna be
Yeah,
10
that's
years
right.
from now, we have Christmas music or something, who knows?
So, any other conditions you think should be put on anyone? Okay, So we have a motion made and seconded to recommend that this application be approved with the condition that we know outside amplifiers used, amplified speakers used, and that you had, of course, obviously have to comply with all state and federal laws regarding your
There's a
hard
lot
side.
more, lot more ahead.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
That'll be a county board then, March 10th for final approval.
We make a recommendation to them, and then they make the final decision.
All right. Excellent.
Excuse me.
Okay, Bob, it's, 15 and
Oh, is
next-
that right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, we'll move on to the next topic, next,
Okay, it was an application, public hearing to be held, and the Houston County Planning Commission to review the preliminary plat for Matt Cruz. He's from Caledonia, Minnesota, and the plat would be in Caledonia Township, part of Lot 15, our first edition of the Green River subdivision. Set up and signing an application to the owners of the enforceable option for interest in registered land. Hearing on the issue will be held at the Courthouse Commissioners Room, City of Caledonia, Minnesota, 55921 at 7:15 on February 26th. All persons having an interest in the matter will be given the opportunity to be heard relative to the granting or denying of said application. Houston County Planning Commissioner Bob Stanley, advertised February 11th, 2015. Did everybody get a copy of the preliminary plat? I sent a bunch of copies out for review, the agencies that are required to see it, ordinance, such as the county engineer, the township, soil water district, the E901 coordinator, DNR. So, haven't heard any comments or anything like this, but if you recall, there came in a couple times to run it past you, just kind of see, get a feel for what you would think of it. The one issue that came up fairly early in the proposal was the street frontage requirement, and the ordinance requires 100-foot street frontage. It was not looking like that was going to be able to be met, so Matt applied for a variance to go 70 foot along that cul-de-sac instead of the typical 5 foot, and the Board of Adjustment approved that variance. Since then, he has worked with his surveyor, Joel Thurston, land surveying company from St. Charles. Go ahead and put this together, and it looks like it meets all the requirements for the plat as indicated in the ordinance. As you can see, there are contour lines there every 2 feet to show the topography a little better. You notice on the west side of the lot, there's an existing 50-foot drainage easement. It takes a lot of drainage from the west side of the lots that are located to the north of this proposed one. In addition, there are easements on the south side of this lot too. So back in early December, we met with Chad Myrie on the site. He's a local septic designer, and we did some preliminary soil borings. We didn't encounter any bottled soil at that time, although he's going to have to do an official soil boring once spring rolls around here to get a better measurement of what the soils look like. From what I hear talking with Mr. Klug, the house would be positioned right off of the cul-de-sac, straight south, I believe, and they'll hopefully meet setbacks and stay out of the easements and things like that. So here you go. Here's the proposal. So
you got anything else to add, Matt?
Pretty straightforward, I guess.
Okay. Were you looking to build a summer? Is that what you're thinking?
I would like to, yeah. Interest rates and et cetera.
So any questions members' word?
Will there, Bob, be enough room for the second, the alternative septic site? or-
It looks like it at this point, you know, like I said, I haven't seen a design yet,
Okay.
but, looks like there should be.
Any other questions? Anyone else here could comment on this? Okay, you got your square footage figured out and stuff, how much you're gonna take?
Ask the wife.
Okay.
I bought a new snowmobile, so now she thinks she gets a fireplace.
Just gotta leave enough room for a
I just don't want to mow the lawn anymore. I have enough. I have a garden above, and I just want to go. I got 2 kids. I'm tired of mowing it. Somebody wants to probably pay some more revenue and taxes and what have you, so I was like, let's sell it. Perfect. Yay, don't have to mow it every week.
We've been friends since we were in diapers, so.
Okay, Bob, you wanna read that findings?
Okay, in the case of all subdividers, the county board shall deny approval of a preliminary plat if it makes any of the following findings. 1, that the proposed subdivision is in conflict with adopted applicable general and specific plans of Houston County. 2, that the design or improvement of the proposed subdivision is in conflict with any adopted component of the comprehensive plan of Houston County. 3, that the physical characteristics of the site, including but not limited to topography, vegetation, susceptibility to erosion and siltation, susceptibility to flooding, water, storage, drainage, and retention are such that the site is not suitable for the type of development or use contemplated. 4, that the site is not physically suitable for the proposed density of the development. 5, that the design of subdivision or proposed improvements are likely to cause substantial environmental damage. 6, the design of the subdivision or type of improvements is likely to cause serious public health problems. Or 7, that the design of the subdivision or type of improvement will conflict with the easements of record or with easements established by judgment of a court.
Okay, of course, all the easements are on here, yeah. So any other question, any questions by the board members? On the findings? Okay, if no other comment, if there's no questions, I'd entertain a motion one way or another. That's fine.
I'll make a motion to approve this preliminary plat.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Okay, we had a motion made and seconded to approve this plat. Is there any further discussion on it? If not, I ask for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, that'll go to the county board March 10th, approval of this plat. If they go ahead and approve it, then we start looking at it. So that's kind of next step. And that final plat includes all the signature blocks that we talked about, but I can give you an example of what that looks like too, so. And I'm sure Joel knows about these. Okay.
You guys have really done your homework and been real patient and made sure everything is right.
Yeah, it's, I only want to do it once, so.
It's nice when you can pick your neighbor. Like, we wouldn't make a lot, just how it is. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, that, anyone get a chance to look at the minutes? You want to take a few minutes, look at the minutes from our last meeting? Any comments on the minutes? Any corrections or changes? If not, I'd ask for a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I so move.
As they Ed,
Yep.
seconded by,
I'll second it.
motion been made and seconded to approve the minutes as written. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, the zoning permits, any questions on the zoning permits?
I have one.
Dan, go ahead.
Herman Gady, I see last time on the minutes, he had a building permit for a modular home, and now he's building an addition on the house?
Yeah, he already.
What's up with that?
He built it.
Is it addition on the modular house that you just put up?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
it's just that his name's in your two meetings.
Right, yep, you're right. It is modular home, but he extended the length of it, he
Okay.
added an extra bedroom, and deck on the back and a deck
Just
on the front.
Seemed odd to get a new house, and he's already had none.
Yeah, exactly.
So is this on these existing houses or the
And
temporary?
then new, second one as well.
He thought it was all covered under the one, but it wasn't, because he had the tax.
Yeah, it's an issue, so, we got, first we get a call on the complaint about it, so I followed up.
Is that what it is?
Is it supposed to be temporary home that they get to move up?
Well, it's not a camper, but it's up on pillars, so, he can still move it, he can take the additions off. I guess that's the only way that works, but.
And Bob, he does get it that this might have to be moved. I mean, I don't really care.
We made that very specific here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's heard that from me and you guys, and, he knows that.
Okay. I
You know-
mean, I don't care how he spends his money, but just so he doesn't think, well, if I add this, that,
No.
pretty soon they'll say, well, okay.
When he was in here for the permits, we made that very, very clear.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think he expects it to be a pretty long-term deal with his daughter living there.
Okay.
He should be there 20, 30, 40 years.
Of course, it depends on him,
Well, yeah.
how long he's there.
How long he's there, yeah.
Yep.
Uh,
That was a condition.
It's given to him, not her. Okay, any other questions on zoning permits?
This Gerald Meyer changed the structure from a garage to a dwelling.
Yeah,
Do you have any background on that, Bob, or?
yeah, he got actually a variance back in, was that December too? He's down on County 5, there's an existing garage that sits, I think it's about 48 feet off County 5, so he came in for a variance. The reason he needed a variance is because he's changing the use of that building to a dwelling. He wants to live there when he's at his property for hunting and things like that, so he doesn't plan to live there full-time, but it meets the requirements of what we would define as a dwelling.
Okay.
And that it's over the square footage requirement for a cabin. And he thinks that someday he might want to live there full-time anyway. So we just went ahead and permitted it as such, called it a dwelling. He's put the septic system in for it here this spring too, so.
This particular place that Bob's talking about, I know that one. They planted a lot of grapevines and that stuff, and was it, the previous owner died
Yeah.
very suddenly, huh?
Chris Weiss, I think.
Chris Weiss, yeah. And this guy, acquired the property, and I think he plans on doing something with all the grapevines that are there too. I think they planted like 1,100 of them or something. There's a lot of them.
Yeah,
Is that the only dwelling in that corner?
yep. In fact, there used to be a house there, I think he tore it down just a few years ago, within the last 10 years.
Huh? That was Schutz's, yeah.
Shit's fun, yeah.
So he'll have to do sewer and. Okay, any other questions? Zoning permits? Now I'll ask for a vote to approve the zoning permits. If there's a motion to approve them,
I will make a motion, we approve the zoning permits as presented.
is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded to approve the zoning permits. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, under other business, we have urban.
Before we get into that,
Okay.
Mr. Tossinson is here tonight. He wanted to bring an issue up, and he have to refresh my memory, I forgot.
Why don't you come on up?
Come on up.
Well, Dusty Sales, you want me to come up there? Or
That's good.
What's your first name?
Brad.
Brad, yeah, okay.
Dusty Sales, he's planning on building a house up on Dunsmith Road in Yucatan Township. And this property has history with it. And he has 17 acres, and there's state land that goes around him on two sides, and then he has the Gunsmith Road on the other side as a border. And he can build in only 3 places on the property, because he has to have what kind of permit?
The soil type, well, he's got a conditional use permit there. But the soil type dictates that he builds on a class 4, 5, or 6 soil type. So that's what kind of is the limiting factor there. And so that's what you kind of wondered.
And so then he has to build on really steep ground, and he wants to put up a 34 by 60 and then another 36 by 34 garage on a ranch style home. And by the time he gets done doing all the landscaping and stuff, from the low to the high point, it's 10 feet difference in altitude. Then he wants to be able to drive a garage heading out to the north, and he's going to do huge excavating to level out a place for his house. And he has a nice prime spot sitting on top of the hill. But I know you guys got that 40-acre rule, and I just came here to find out what your thoughts was on this. And when I said this property has history, there's some other individual who previously owned it, had a permit to build on the side, but then they went and built it on top, and he didn't come to you guys, and then the county made him tear it down.
Is that a big cement structure? Did
Yes,
they get as far
the
as,
concrete basement poured and the,
Yeah.
the wood frame was starting to go up, yeah, I think blacks was the guys ordered. There was a couple issues, it was sitting on the wrong soil type, I think it was too close to the township road too, and so at that time, the county board said, well, you're not meeting the conditions you permit, you have to tear that out of there, so that's what ended up happening. And so, that, I think that was back in 1998, 2000, there somewhere. Yeah.
So, where does the quarter rule come into play in this?
Well, this is, there's a conditional use permit with the property, so that's not the issue here.
To do what?
To build a house on less than 40 acres.
On less than 40 acres.
So that's not the problem. As he said, it's the soil type. Where he's required to build, it's steeper, it's gonna require more excavation.
Because it's too rocky up on top, is that it? Go ahead.
No.
No, because up on top.
Up on
is
top of
class
it.
soil, that's your class
Oh.
2. It's not buildable up top.
Okay.
So that pushes them down off the top, the sides. And like Brad said, it's gonna be more excavation on the site to get that to work.
Another thing is he can build a pole shed on top, right?
Yeah.
And he's planning to build a pole shed, so he's pretty much wrecked the field anyways, or will wreck the field. He's planning to build a pole shed next year, 2 years down the road for his horses and things. And he's gonna put a driveway right down the middle, right on top. I mean, it just makes sense to build a house on top, since everything fits for it, but I mean, it's up to you guys.
Well, the problem is that there's been many precedents, including
But
from
then,
the
they
former
didn't come
owners.
to the meeting like that, a lot of people.
Well, it was a condition on the original permit
Mhm.
to build on the fresh soil. So, I don't know if the county could extend itself at this point. I mean, I can't speak for the county, but, if they told a former owner to tear a house down because it sat in the wrong soil type, 15 years later, they say, oh, yeah, go ahead. That puts the county in somewhat of a liability.
But it sounded like that person didn't go through the right procedures. He was supposed to build on the side hill, he dug the basement down there, but then he all of a sudden, boom, put on top.
Yeah.
He didn't come,
Yeah, he didn't follow his plan.
he didn't come to you guys and talk to you about it.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, he started where he was supposed to,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it was up on top of the hill.
So,
So, when you drive in on that property, how far down there do you have to drive before you get to this, where you can build? I mean, for example, there's a little shed there now.
100 feet,
There's a little shed there now, right, when you drive in on the driveway?
and one he built, if I'm thinking of the right one, it's down there. It's quite a ways out, 20. And where he's thinking about building, there's a power line that runs overhead right there, so the power company's gonna take that down, knife in underground. And the well is not too far from the top of the hill. And the well's, I don't know, probably 50 feet off top of the hill. Same power line.
The well wouldn't have been on top of the hill if he'd built, the first guy would have built the house where he was supposed to.
But you can't do it all now.
No, that's permanent.
So is he thinking about building, so right now, the way it stands, he's gonna have to build below that well?
Yeah, he's gonna have to build on the steep side hill. I mean, he would love to build on top, but,
How steep is the side, huh?
well, on 34 feet, it's 10-foot difference in elevation, 34 feet wide, so.
Well, that'd be less than, what is it, 42? You can build on?
24.
Or 24, I'm sorry, yeah.
No, he
Yeah.
gets the slope
He makes,
Okay, all right.
just started to build a structure and all the dirt work he's gonna have to do it to.
Then once out of the garage, he goes out to the north, and then you have to at least have 20 feet of flat to drive into the garage, to be able to swing his car around and everything.
Is there any other way he can design?
Well, that's the way him and his wife really like this design that they have.
Yeah. But how far are they talking right from the well, where the well is right now and the full? Are they gonna build, they're gonna, thinking about going right below there? I mean, is that?
Well, Gunsmith kind of goes at an angle.
Right.
The well and stuff is right here.
How far off Gunsmith is that well? That's probably a couple hundred feet or more.
It's right, I bet it's a couple hundred yards, yeah.
Yeah, yards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite a ways, and he's thinking of putting the house right here.
Right below the well? I mean,
Yeah, to the east of the well.
To the east of the well, back towards Gunsmith?
Yeah, yeah. But if he could, he would love to build it on top, which makes sense to me, build on top of the hill, water runs downhill. But I know people build on steep sides all the time.
Yeah.
But, and he has a nice prime spot, that's the thing. And he's just gonna wreck the field land for doing all the dirt work, if he has to level out for a driveway and stuff.
So you're asking whether or not there's any way that he could build it on top,
Yeah.
just down to the edge?
Yeah.
Well, I think Bob is kind of given. See, there's a danger, you know, I mean, there's reasons we have the rules, you know.
Yeah, but like I said,
I
they didn't go through the right
hear you,
procedures.
I hear you, yeah.
And
You run
I
into
didn't want to spend the $500 on the permit. I figured just come to you guys first and see what you thought. So.
If we required the first guy to tear the house down and that, it's pretty, just gets to be very iffy if,
Yeah, it'd be pretty tough to.
pretty tough to.
Okay it now, yeah.
okay it now.
Of course,
Yeah.
and of course, you know, Dusty knew all the history when he bought the property.
I'm assuming so.
Yeah, yeah. But
So-
I sure don't blame you for asking. But
It makes a lot of sense, but I don't think we can.
I don't know. You know, some way that.
I don't know any provision of the ordinance, but.
Can't, would he come off Gunsmith on the current driveway or come
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
same driveway?
He's going to have driveway go up and driveway go down.
Okay.
To the house.
He'd be out of the wind more if he goes down there. Pretty windy up there.
You guys kind of thinking on a no space.
I think it's gonna be doubtful.
I figured take $500 was come talk.
Yeah, yeah, just because, you know, Bob explained it. Appreciate you asking. Right. Appreciate you asking before you start.
So it's not going to go on top hill, don't worry about that.
Okay.
I guess the other business on the agenda here was the urban expansion district discussion. If you remember, we had talked about this early on last year when we were discussing all the ordinance changes other than mining, as one of the things that we'd like to amend in the existing zoning ordinance. And so I thought, you know, I haven't had a lot of time because I've been working on this mining ordinance for the last 3 years, but I think it'd be time to maybe pick that up. What I was hoping to do, and I wanted to ask you guys first, was to send maps out to each township and to the township clerks and supervisors, just to give them an idea what the current residential areas look like, in comparison to, you know, even the towns within each township, and get them to start thinking about where, you know, this urban expansion district might be in each of these situations or each township. And so, a couple areas come to mind that we have seen more than their average development, like up towards Muddy Creek, around the Muddy Creek proper there, where there's been numerous subdivisions over the years. We've had people come in and ask about one lot subdivisions, and those get kind of cumbersome for people that want to build, you know, one extra house out of 40, even though they lie pretty close to an existing subdivision or a small unincorporated town like Muddy Creek. It forces them into going through the whole rezoning, platting process. It gets to be a lot of dollars spent, you know, for the individual through that process for applications, surveying, you know, the surveyor to put that plat together for them. And, you know, with this urban expansion district, and, you know, like I said, every township's going to be a little different, but the idea is that maybe these folks that want to put an extra house in a 40 near town wouldn't have to go through such a stringent process to get that done. And so typically I think what we're talking about usually is going to be within a mile or two of an existing city like Holcomb, Brownsville, Calhoun, Spring Grove, plus all these smaller little unincorporated areas like Sheldon, Muddy Creek, you know, places like that where there's already existing residential development, and maybe allow some more of that, you know, within a close proximity in those areas. And so this would be the first attempt, you know, to get some information out to the townships. I thought I'd run it past you guys first, and before I did it, and because I think that's something maybe we need to probably pick up and start moving out of here pretty quick. But any ideas or thoughts before I go ahead and do it? Or I mean, I've got maps that I brought to our earlier planning meetings, and I thought I'd just go ahead, and I still got them in a box here. We just looked at them today. I thought I'd go ahead and send them out. And like for instance, Brownsville Township would show the city of Brownsville, and it would show the outlying areas, you know, a couple miles out. And so the township would take a look at that and say, well, for instance, this area between Polk and Brownsville on Blacktop Road might be good for more development, for instance, something like that. So just to get them to start thinking about it.
Yeah, there are some places along some of those blacktop roads where it isn't farmable, but it sure could have some houses to have value there.
Especially on the upper side of the road there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's different places like that, and then there's gonna be some townships that very little, the township probably wouldn't wanna muck in with any of it because there's more farming, and the more houses you move into where the farms are, just causes problems for the farmers.
Right.
So I guess it's something, I'm in favor of, you know, going forward and starting to discuss it with the townships and the cities, that,
Okay.
and see what the discussion brings, what the people, townships and the smaller towns and whatever, what their feelings are.
See, would that have accommodated this guy tonight? He's coming in and doing a subdivision of one, isn't he?
Yeah, him not so much, because he's subdividing an existing lot, actually, so.
Okay.
His was already there, he's just splitting it.
Yeah.
He's splitting it one more time, so. Yeah, there's a 2-acre lot there, he's making it 2 acre lots.
Okay.
Because on the end of the cul-de-sac where everything fans
Yeah.
out like that, it was one really, really big lot, and just by cutting the frontage down on the front of that, it still made 2 nice lots, buildable houses.
So you were talking about actually rezoning a certain area in the township, you know, for development is what it would be.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be ag land anymore, it'd be a development.
Yeah.
Right, it would be a different district that would have possibly allowed more housing, you know, per
Maybe.
40, instead of 1 per 40, maybe 2 or 3 or whatever.
Maybe
So-
some people could live in the country and we wouldn't be butting up against all this 40-acre rule and something like that.
Right, that's the whole idea, is to
Yeah.
kind of get a
That's
spot that
kinda-
you can build houses here, but, you
Yeah.
know,
Yep.
yeah.
Get them in decent proximity towards the town or something, instead of out in the rural
Yeah.
areas.
Well, even like me up there, there's, like a mile up the road, there's a whole cluster of houses there.
Mhm.
But it seems like when we've, over the years and that, when we've looked at this, when they've done the census and that stuff, the school districts and that like to have the students and that closer because it's a lot less cost than busing them in so far. And just tax-wise and by looking at the census data that we had back some years ago and that, it showed that it made sense.
So if we do something like this, that would replace that 2-mile
Yeah.
rule,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah.
All these, yeah. all
You
these-
understand that? Ed, what we're
2 mile
talking
really
about,
don't,
2 miles,
no.
well, if you explain that, within 2 miles from town.
Yeah, we've,
Yeah, we've been allowing these smaller one-lot subdivisions if you're within 2-mile proximity of a town. And this would kind of preempt that, or not make it such a tough thing to go through for the landowner if they just want to build one extra house. They'd already be zoned correctly to do it. They wouldn't have to plat it and do all that, so.
Would you anticipate this being a area being zoned or a lot by lot as necessary?
it would be an area.
Oh, is that right?
It'd
Okay.
be like a development.
It'd
is
be
what
like a
it'd be.
development.
I got an interesting thing, Jefferson Township down there, the closest town is New Albin, and I can see that being, that has nothing to do with Houston County, but I can see that up that valley being a possibility too.
Yeah.
So is there, you know, what do you do in something like that?
Well,
You just.
I said it's kind of up to the township or whatever,
Yeah.
a little bit.
So I mean, it could be, if they wanted to develop, if somebody wanted to, then you could approach it at that time or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
Um,
but
that'll be
if,
sent it
you
out
have to be pretty
township.
careful with that because otherwise you wind up with spot zoning. And I think the urban thing to stay within 2 miles or
If you stay close to town,
Stay
you're
close
gonna be
to
better
town,
off.
you're
That's, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, by
Yep.
New Albin, it's still close to town, it'd be just not a Houston County town,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right now.
you know.
if you start letting this scattered all over and that,
No.
we're looking for trouble then.
No, that makes no sense at all.
Wouldn't this kind of replace the subdivision?
Yeah, a lot of times it would.
Okay, all right.
But it could make it
Okay.
much more by not doing like this guy going through 4 different hearings to just put this little house plat in there and that stuff. That
Yeah,
would be much simpler process and much cheaper.
So then once you
To get it done.
designated this area, you would just need a zoning permit, basically, to build a house?
Yep.
Once you designate a
And
certain
legal-
area.
Designate, and then of course have to have a legal description and all that stuff, but.
And we talked about setbacks from these. We even got into some discussion of that when we were talking about it with the other zoning changes. Yeah, and I'll have to pull the minutes out and everything, but, you know, once we get some input back from the townships, I'd like to get together with you guys and kind of hammer something out here too, you know? What makes sense, you know? For instance, if there's a B lot within this urban district, or urban expansion district,
Yeah, that,
what should the setback be, or, you know?
Yeah,
We
well-
gotta answer those questions, so.
that's probably gonna have to be what we've got setbacks for now.
Probably is, yeah. So.
There
maybe
may,
it
there
does
may
make
be
sense
some
to
of
either
these,
rezone it.
yeah, but there may be some of these townships in that who don't want no part of this.
Right, exactly. Leave it alone or whatever, so. It's gonna be
Depends
area
on,
by area.
depends on their circumstances and their area.
kind of at the discretion of the township then, huh?
Well, we wanna have a lot of input probably.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
want it to kind of be there.
I- You'd have to be careful, giving too much discretion to townships, because that'd change everything. You still have to have all the rules come from here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
but I want to leave down the discussion.
Yeah, but the
Okay.
input, but as far as what
Yeah.
controls it, it has to be the same deal.
Mainly right now, it'll be just within 2 miles or something like that of the city, you know.
But I'd also want to put in there some stipulations of not using arable land if you can avoid it, you
Yeah.
know, and keep that whole thing in
Yeah.
context too.
See, some towns you might go out 2 miles in this direction, but you might not go at all in this direction.
Right.
Right.
You might not go this way at all.
Might be good ag land all one way
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, in Bonnie Creek, there's 2 subdivisions that have gone in the last, 10, 12 years. You could throw a rock from one just
Yep.
across 76 into the other one. Would have simplified that for everybody who wanted to put a house in either one of those.
Yep.
But this down in Money Creek was kind of an unusual situation because the town had been originally platted,
Right.
and all of the lots were so very small that they were unusable till they made these, till we went back and subdivided it. So, but, like, I lived out Eitzen and that down there, and when you go east out of Eitzen or you go south, well, south is pretty close to the Iowa border, but when you go west and that, you're running it from west and northwest, you're running it into very good agricultural land and that, and there is subdivision on the northern side of Eitzen, right, the city limits right now, there's still lots in there, and from there that, what is being pasture and that, could be built up in houses if, between the township and the city, if they chose to think about that, or however people want to think, whatever they want to do.
Are we going to get input from the towns too, or not?
I think so. Yeah,
Yep.
it'd be smart.
I think you have to, or at least, that's, I think when we looked at this before, that was the idea, everybody.
Well, I think it's worthwhile exploring. It'd be a while before we get to proposed ordinance, but it'd be worthwhile looking at. Yeah.
That's kind of the next thing.
Yeah.
You got a lot of townships and a lot of towns, and by the time you get around to contacting all of them, or, with meeting once a month or whatever, it's gonna take a year to just get there.
It's gonna take a while, yeah. That's why I thought I'd do it by mail for now, maybe the maps out, and we can start to think about it. And I thought maybe what I'd do is maybe have them come to the courthouse, maybe 3, 4 townships at a time. Come by and talk about it. Because then you get spread pretty thin, going out to all these meetings. We'll see what works.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, any other business? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded?
I'll second it.
Second. Larry? Okay, motion made, seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.